Beloved, life has a way of teaching us through people, through pain, and through partings. Sometimes the very ones we trusted, the very ones we loved, broke us into pieces and walked away. But here is the eternal truth. What breaks you is never the end of you. What wounds you is never greater than the spirit within you. For the power of God that breathes through you cannot be broken, cannot be diminished, cannot be destroyed. And when they come back, those who once turned away, do not see it as a test of your worth. See it as a confirmation of your growth. Because when the stone that was rejected returns to the builder, it is not the stone that has changed. It is the builder who now sees its value. They left because they could not endure your light. There are people who are drawn to your warmth, your kindness, your radiant presence. Yet at the same time they cannot withstand it. Your light exposes what they try to hide. It brings out truths they are not ready to face, and it magnifies insecurities they have never resolved. Your love may have been genuine, your intentions pure, and your loyalty unwavering. But sometimes the intensity of who you are becomes unbearable for those who are still living in shadows. When you shine with authenticity, it unsettles those who live behind masks. When you walk in courage, it threatens those who survive through fear. When you carry dreams too big for the ordinary, it shakes those who have accepted mediocrity as their destiny. And so instead of rising to meet your level, instead of embracing the challenge to grow alongside you, they choose the easier path. They walk away. But remember this truth. They did not leave because you were not enough. They left because you were more than what they could handle at that stage of their lives. You reminded them of the potential they denied in themselves. You mirrored back to them the greatness they had buried, and that reflection was too bright, too painful for eyes accustomed to the dimness of comfort zones. Your light is not something you should ever apologize for. Your passion, your energy, your vision, your love, all of it is a divine gift. Yet to someone who has chosen to remain in limitation, your gift becomes a mirror of their lack. And rather than receiving it with gratitude, they flee from it. Think of the sun. The same sun that gives life to the earth can also drive someone into hiding if they are not ready to step into its brilliance. Flowers bloom under its warmth, but some creatures retreat underground. The problem is not the sun. It is the readiness of the receiver. Likewise, your spirit radiates like the sun. Some blossom because of you. Others wither away in your presence, not because you harmed them, but because they were not prepared to live in the fullness of light. Understand this. Your role is not to shrink so that others can feel comfortable. It is not to dim your brilliance so that others do not feel small. If they had the courage, they would have let your light inspire them. If they had faith, they would have let your presence lift them higher. But instead, they chose to leave. That is not your fault. It is simply a reflection of where they are in their journey. Your spirit will always be too much for someone who has chosen to settle for less. Your faith will always overwhelm those who live by doubt. Your love will always be misunderstood by those who have not yet healed from their wounds. They could not endure your light, because to endure it would mean they must transform, and transformation is what many fear most. So they left, not because of weakness in you, but because of weakness in themselves. And in their leaving, they revealed the very truth that proves your worth. You are radiant beyond measure. Their leaving was not your loss, it was your liberation. It is natural to feel abandoned when someone walks away. It is natural to question yourself to wonder if you could have done something differently, to replay the memories searching for the moment it all shifted. But let the higher truth sink deeply into your soul. Their departure was never a loss. It was freedom disguised as heartbreak. There are people whose presence looks like companionship but feels like chains. They occupy your life, but they block your growth. They sit beside you, but they keep you from rising. And while you may think of them as necessary to your happiness, in truth, they are only anchors preventing your spirit from soaring. When they left, a space was created. That space felt like emptiness at first, but in reality, it was sacred room for newness to enter. The universe never subtracts without preparing for multiplication. What feels like being stripped of love is often the clearing away of dead weight, so that living love can take root. Sometimes, the greatest gift the divine can give you is the removal of what you thought you could not live without. You may cry, you may grieve, you may ache, but when the storm passes, you realize you have been set free. Free from manipulation, free from limitations, free from a relationship that stunted your becoming. Consider this. A bird in a cage may grow comfortable with the bars, even convincing itself that the cage is safety. But when the door is opened and the bird steps out, it discovers that the sky was always waiting. What looked like loss, the breaking of a cage, was actually liberation. In the same way, when someone exits your life, it may feel like devastation. But what has actually happened is a breaking open of your cage. You are free to fly where you could not before. Every departure is a redirection. If they were meant for your destiny, they could not have left. If they were necessary for your journey, they would still be holding your hand. Their leaving is proof that your path is higher than what they were willing to walk. They stepped out not to destroy you, but because they could not enter where you are going. It is only loss when you measure it through the lens of attachment. When you measure it through the lens of destiny, you see it for what it really is. Divine release. Release from burdens you thought were blessings. Release from distractions you thought were love. Release from delays you thought were companionship. And now you stand lighter. You stand freer. You stand ready for what is real, what is lasting, what is aligned with your spirit. You did not lose anything. You gained space for what is greater. When they return, it is a sign of your strength, not their value. Life has a rhythm, a divine circulation. What departs often circles back, but not always for the reasons we imagine. When those who once left you return, it is not proof of their worth. It is proof of yours. Their return is not a compliment to their presence, but a testimony to your resilience. They thought your absence of them would destroy you, yet here you stand, stronger, wiser, and radiant with the light of survival. When someone leaves, they may believe they are taking with them the very essence of your joy. They may think you will stumble, that you will break, that you will wither without their presence. But what they miscalculated is the reservoir of divine strength that flows within you. They underestimated the infinite well of spirit that sustains your soul. And so when they see you thriving in their absence, they are drawn back, not out of love, not out of transformation within themselves, but out of recognition of the strength that could not be diminished. Their return is a mirror. It reflects the undeniable truth that you are more powerful than they ever believed. If your spirit was fragile, you would have collapsed. If your soul was shallow, you would have drowned in sorrow. But instead you stood firm. You rose higher, and you discovered that the very thing they took from you was never your source. Your source was always within you, and it was always divine. See their return clearly. Do not confuse it with validation of their value. Their coming back does not increase their worth. It increases your recognition of how far you have come. It shows you that what once seemed like the end was in fact the beginning. It demonstrates that no human leaving can strip away your destiny. They return because they see in you something undeniable, the glow of a soul that has been tried, tested, and transformed. You must not allow their return to distort your clarity. Just because they come back does not mean they are worthy of re-entry. Many return not because they have changed, but because they see you have changed. They left you broken, but now they find you whole. They walked away when they thought you were weak, but now they see your strength, and it unsettles them. Some return out of curiosity, some out of regret, some out of need, but rarely out of growth. Your task is not to question why they have come back, but to ask yourself whether you need them in the place you now stand. The version of you they left behind no longer exists. You have been refined, elevated, expanded. Do they belong in this new chapter, or is their return simply a reminder of how far you have risen? Remember, strength attracts. Just as the world is drawn to a flame in the darkness, people are drawn to souls who have overcome, but their attraction does not mean their presence is necessary. Let their return be evidence of your resilience, not a reason to surrender your progress. They come back not because of who they are, but because of who you have become. That is the truth you must hold in your spirit. The highest response is calmness, dignity, and silence. When wounds are fresh, the heart longs to react. It longs to cry out, to demand answers, to express the depth of its pain. Anger simmers, words sharpen, emotions rise like a storm, but wisdom whispers another way. True strength is not in loud replies, nor in bitter speeches, nor in rehearsing the injury again and again. The highest response is calmness, dignity, and silence. Calmness is not weakness. It is mastery. It is the quiet assurance that no one can shake the foundation of your spirit. To remain calm in the face of those who once wounded you is to declare without words that they no longer hold power over you. You have transcended the battlefield where anger dwells. You have risen to a place where storms may rage around you, but none can reach your center. Dignity is the robe you wear when faced with those who doubted you, hurt you, or abandoned you. It is the refusal to lower yourself to pettiness, to revenge, to bitterness. Dignity does not mean you forget the pain. It means you honor yourself more than you honor the wound. It means you choose to stand tall, to carry yourself with grace, to let your very presence be a declaration of your healing. When they see you clothed in dignity, they see someone they can no longer touch, someone they can no longer diminish. Silence is not emptiness. It is eloquent. There are words that can wound deeper than swords, but silence has the power to disarm completely. Silence communicates more than anger ever could. It says, I no longer live in the prison of your actions. I no longer seek explanations for what cannot be explained. I no longer need to fill the air with noise to prove my strength. My silence is my shield. My silence is my victory. When they return, they may expect confrontation. They may expect arguments, tears, or pleading. But when they are met with calmness, dignity, and silence, they encounter something they cannot fight, your peace. And peace is the one thing that cannot be faked. It is the fragrance of a soul that has healed. Do not be tempted to lower yourself to the level of those who once hurt you. Every time you answer with rage, You step back into the very cage you escaped. Every time you allow bitterness to guide your words, you surrender the freedom you gained. And when you choose calmness, when you choose dignity, when you choose silence, you remain sovereign over your own spirit. Calmness shows them they did not break you. Dignity shows them you value yourself more than their opinion. Silence shows them they no longer occupy space within your soul. Together, these three create an unshakable shield, one that protects you, elevates you, and distinguishes you as someone who has transcended the pain. And in this response, you reclaim what was always yours: the power to govern yourself, the authority to decide your reaction, the ability to rise above. Every subtraction is preparation for a divine addition. When something or someone is removed from your life, it is easy to feel as if you have been diminished, as if a piece of your very soul has been torn away. Yet what feels like loss in the language of the human heart is often abundance in the language of the spirit. Every subtraction that occurs in your life is not a punishment. It is a preparation. What seems like an ending is in truth a clearing, a making of space for something greater, something aligned, something divinely appointed to enter. The universe does not deal in absence. It deals in replacement and multiplication. You may think that what walked away left you empty, but in reality it created the very opening through which abundance can flow. Think of a garden. If weeds are pulled from the soil, it may look bare, it may feel stripped, yet that clearing is necessary for new seeds to be planted and for flowers to bloom. Without subtraction, the ground remains overcrowded, and new life has no place to grow. The same principle lives within you. When certain people, habits, or circumstances exit, your soul is being tilled and readied for growth. You could not have achieved otherwise. At times you cling to what has become familiar, even if it has begun to suffocate your spirit. You hold on to people who drain your energy, to relationships that no longer nourish you, to jobs that stifle your gifts, to patterns that keep you small. And because you resist releasing them, life itself steps in and removes them for you. It feels cruel in the moment, but it is mercy in disguise. The subtraction you mourn is actually the liberation you need. For as long as your hands are closed around what is unworthy of you, they cannot be opened to receive what is destined for you. When subtraction happens, it is a divine transaction. Something is being taken away, not to diminish you, but to make room for addition. If you could see the magnitude of what is coming, you would thank heaven for every removal. You would see that your tears were watering the ground for a greater harvest. You would understand that what was taken from you could never compare to what is waiting for you. The law of life is growth. Growth requires change, and change requires release. That release often feels like subtraction. Yet subtraction is never the end. It is always the doorway to addition. The hands that emptied you will be the same hands that fill you. The emptiness you feel now is not a void to be feared, but a vessel being prepared for fullness. The subtraction you thought would ruin you is the very thing that qualifies you for increase. So when life removes, do not cling in despair. Know that something greater is being arranged. For every subtraction is a sign that the universe is not finished with you, that God is not done multiplying you, that your story is still unfolding with promise. Your healing is the loudest testimony. There are scars that words cannot describe, wounds that no explanation can fully capture. You may have tried to tell others of your pain, to articulate the depth of betrayal or the weight of loneliness, but language always falls short. Yet there is something more powerful than words: healing itself. Healing speaks a language no one can deny. Healing becomes the living testimony that says, "I was broken, but I am whole again." When those who left or wounded you return, they may expect to find you in ruins. They may imagine you still grieving, still weak, still clinging to what was lost. But instead they see a soul restored, a heart made whole, a spirit shining with peace. That sight is louder than any speech, more powerful than any explanation. Your healing declares to them and to the world that nothing can keep a soul down when it is sustained by divine strength. Your healing is not silent, though it requires no words. It shows in the way you carry yourself, in the calmness of your presence, in the steadiness of your gaze. It shows in the way you no longer react from wounds, but respond from wisdom. It shows in the way you have learned to walk in peace, even where pain once ruled. When healing has taken root in your spirit, your very being becomes a proclamation of victory. It is not revenge that proves your strength, nor is it bitterness that shows your resilience. It is healing: to forgive when you could hate, to love when you could close your heart, to smile when you could remain in sorrow. That is the truest evidence of triumph. And this testimony cannot be argued with. People may deny your words, they may resist your explanations, but they cannot deny the radiance of a healed soul. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is not pretending the pain never happened. Healing is integrating the pain into your journey, allowing it to shape you without defining you. Healing is standing tall with scars that no longer bleed, with memories that no longer chain you, with lessons that now empower you. When healing happens, you do not erase the past. You redeem it. The very wounds that once caused you shame become the places through which light enters, making you stronger, deeper, more compassionate. Your healing speaks not just to those who once broke you, but to those who are still breaking. It becomes a beacon for others who are suffering in silence, showing them that wholeness is possible, that restoration is real. It becomes a message to your own heart, reminding you that no matter what storms come, you carry within you the power to rise again. Healing is the divine signature on your soul that says, "This one has endured, and this one has overcome." So when they come back and see you healed, they witness a testimony greater than anything you could have said in the moment of pain. They see that the very thing meant to break you became the very thing that built you. They see that your healing is not only your triumph, but also your unspoken declaration that nothing external can define the eternal strength within you. Forgive for your peace, but guard your wisdom. Forgiveness is not about excusing what was done or pretending it did not hurt. It is the release of your own soul from the weight of anger, the chains of resentment, the poison of bitterness. When you forgive, you are not declaring that their actions were right. You are declaring that your spirit deserves peace. But forgiveness does not mean erasing memory or abandoning discernment. Wisdom must walk hand in hand with forgiveness. To forgive is to cleanse the wound, but to guard your wisdom is to protect the scar. You extend grace, that you do not return to the same cage. You open your heart to healing, but you keep your eyes open to truth. In this way, forgiveness becomes your freedom, and wisdom becomes your shield. Love yourself enough not to settle again. Love for self is the foundation upon which all other love must rest. To love yourself is to honor your worth, to refuse to accept less than what aligns with your spirit. When those who once broke you return, they may expect the same version of you that tolerated, that compromised, that settled. But true growth teaches you not to step into old patterns. Love's enough to say no, that you once said yes, to walk away where you once clung, to demand honesty where you once accepted lies. Self-love does not close your heart. It refines it. It teaches you that settling is not love. It is fear. And when you choose self-love, you choose a higher path, one where respect, dignity, and truth are non-negotiable. You are no longer who you were when they broke you. The person they left behind does not exist anymore. Pain has a way of reshaping the soul, of carving out strength where weakness once lived, of planting wisdom where innocence once stood. You have walked through valleys. You have endured nights of silence. You have faced storms you never imagined surviving. And in that process you became new. What once made you tremble now makes you rise taller. What once shattered you now serves as the foundation beneath your feet. You are refined like gold in fire, transformed like a diamond under pressure. They may remember the version of you they broke, but the one who stands today is unrecognizable compared to who you once were. Stand tall. Your worth comes from God, not from them. The deepest truth you must hold is that no person, no relationship, no validation defines your value. Your worth is not determined by who left, who returned, or who failed to see your greatness. Your worth flows from the eternal source that breathed life into you, the divine power that placed purpose within you. To stand tall is to root yourself in that truth, to live with unshakable confidence that you are whole, radiant and enough as you are. When others measure you by their limited sight, you remember that your identity is not in their opinion but in the infinite spirit that sustains you. And when you know this, you no longer bow to rejection, betrayal, or abandonment. You remain steady, dignified, and unbroken. Today we have walked through a journey of transformation. We saw that those who leave are often unable to handle your light, that their departure was not a loss but a liberation, and that their return is a reflection of your strength, not theirs. We learned that calmness, dignity, and silence are your true power, and that every subtraction in your life prepares you for a divine addition. Your healing becomes your loudest testimony. Forgiveness frees your soul while wisdom guards it, and self-love ensures you never settle for less than what you deserve. You are no longer the person they left behind. You are refined, resilient, and radiant. And the most important truth of all is this: your worth comes not from anyone else, but from the eternal source that flows through you. Carry this message in your heart, for it is not only your guide, it is your declaration of freedom, strength, and unshakable power. If this message spoke to your soul and lifted your spirit, make sure to subscribe to channel name for more transformative insights like this, where every video is a step toward your highest self.